Good evening and welcome to this evening's Strategy of the Week, Cherry Picking Industry Winners. My name is Kevin Crowe, Manager of Retirement Services. This evening I'd like to share with you a strategy that is easy to implement, easy to maintain, and does not require extensive backtesting. Those who have attended seminars in which I've presented have heard me say that the most successful trading systems and strategies contain the SDS components of success. Translated, this means a system that is simple to use, disciplined in its approach, and systematic in its implementation. This evening, we'll take a look at a way to use VectorVest to achieve solid results using this approach. At VectorVest, our core approach is knowing when to buy, what to buy, and when to sell. Today, we'll focus only on when to buy and what to buy, and as you'll see, this strategy meets those criteria very nicely using a simple, disciplined, and systematic way. Before getting into the nuts and bolts of the strategy, it would be helpful to share with you some critical information regarding aspects of the market dynamics and the impact they have on price movement. Here at VectorVest, we believe market direction is the primary mover of the market, followed by top-performing industry groups and top-performing stocks. Our strategy this evening will use the VectorVest tried and true confirmed up market timing signal as to when to buy stocks combined with top-performing industries. So let's think about this for a moment. If you were able to create and implement a strategy that made sure that we only buy when we have a confirmed up, buy the top-ranked stock from the highest-rated VectorVest industry group, that we might have a lot of market momentum in our favor and stand a really good chance to make some money. One of the great treasures of VectorVest is its ability to do just that. More importantly, it allows us to go back in time and test a strategy so that when similar circumstances present themselves in the future, we have a knowledge base to use to begin making money systematically. So let's get right into our program. We're going to move up to the tab that says Viewers, move over to Viewer, and click on Industry Viewer. But we're going to change our date from May back to December, when we last had a confirmed up in the Australian market, and that was the 19th of December. We'll click on the 19th, we'll click OK, and that brings us to the industry groups on that date. Now we're going to do this so that we can find the top rated stocks in the top 5 industry groups on that confirmed up date. However, we have some additional criteria that we're going to apply to our selection. And those selection criteria are, first, price must be greater than $5 per share, average volume greater than or equal to 50,000 shares, the RV, RS, and RT must be above 1, the stock must be rated a VectorVest buy or hold, our growth rate needs to be greater than or equal to 10, and we will not use any indexes or ETFs. Again, please note we have changed our date to 12/19/2012, which was a confirmed up in the Australian market. So let's look at the first industry, consumer discretionary consumer services. I'm going to double click on that industry group, and this brings up all of the stocks in that industry group for potential selection. As you can see, the first 3 stocks do not meet our price criteria, so we move to the 4th one, which is Flight Center Limited. It meets our price, the RV, the RS, the RT. Additionally, it also meets our growth rate. If we scroll to the right, we will also see that it meets our average volume. So this would be our first selection. Next, we move to Financials Insurance. Again, we'll double click, we'll apply our criteria, and we will see that in the stocks that present themselves to us, the first stock over $5 per share is Australian Brokers Holdings. It does meet our RV, RS, RT, VST, our growth rate, and let's check average volume. And it just barely clears our $50,000 minimum level, but at 69,900 shares on average, it will be added to our potential purchase list. We'll now select Consumer Discretionary Retail. Same as before, we double click, we see which stocks arise, and we're going to choose BRG. It meets our minimum $5 price target. Strong RV, RS, RT, all above 1, It has a 19% growth rate, and we'll check our volume. And we also have an average volume of 502,700 shares traded daily. Next, as you'll notice, we have market indices as the next ranked item, but we're going to skip over that, and we're going to go financial banks. Double click. Again, we will choose the first one we come to that meets our criteria, which in this case is the Suncor Group. Price per share is $10.06. RV, RS, RT, and VST all above 1. We have a buy, and again we will check our average volume. And our average volume on Sun Group is almost 4 million shares daily. And the final industry was consumer discretionary. We'll double click again, and our first stock that is at least $5 and meets all of our criteria. This one was a hold. However, that was part of our selection criteria, was not to eliminate the holds, simply because we are catching a confirmed up, which means stocks have been rising perhaps from a sell recommendation to a hold and maybe on their way to a buy. Let's make sure we are getting at least 50,000 shares of average daily volume, which in fact we are at over 1,000,007. So we now have the 5 stocks that we've chosen from the top 5 industry groups. Our next step is to create a watch list and place the stocks in the watch list so that we can run a quick test and see what rate of return we've achieved from the confirmed up on 12/19 of 12 to present. To create the watch list, I'm going to move over to the tab that says My Watch List. And next I'm going to move my icon up towards this little piece of paper icon that looks like a piece of paper with a little dog ear. Click on that, and I'm going to create a new watch list because the group My Watch List is already open. So I click on the watch list, and let's name this Aussie. You can now see that we have the watch list Aussie 191212 has been created. Let's begin by adding our ticker symbols to the watch list. And notice we put a comma at the end of each of our symbols. Now let's just double check to make sure we've entered everything correctly. We should have 5 symbols: FLT, AUB, BRG, SUN, AX, and CRZ, AX, and we hit add. This has now added all those 5 stocks that we have interested in researching further to our watch list. Let's sort them by price descending. So we have Flight Centers at the top, and we have Breville Group at the bottom. However, remember, we've got to change this date from the date of 16/5 of 13 back to December, because that was our confirmed up call. So we'll click on the 19th, click on OK. Again, we will rank by price. We have Flight Center at the top and Breville Group at the bottom. As you can see, all of our stocks that we've selected have met our criteria of RV, RS, and RT all above 1. All recommendations are buy or no less than a hold, and our average volume is above 50,000 shares. However, I'm not quite finished. I want to see how these stocks perform versus their industry group that they happen to be part of. We know industry performance can have and does have a significant impact on stock price. So how in fact do we compare the stock to its industry group? Well, let me show you a way that works for me. I'm going to right click on Flight Center Limited. I'm going to move down here to View Stock Graph, left click on that, and then I'd like you to notice that in the upper left hand corner of our graph is an icon that looks like a playing card. It's rectangular and has 4 smaller squares within it. I'm going to left click on this icon, and what I want to do is create a split screen so that I can take a look at the graph of the stock and the graph of the industry group. So I'll click in the upper left quadrant. I will click in the upper right quadrant. I'll close this chart a little bit to give us a little bit more real estate. And now I have a split screen. I've got the stock on my left, and I have a blank space asking me to enter a symbol on my right. So our next step is to come over here and look to see what industry group Flight Centers Limited is in. And as you can see right below the name that says Flight Center Limited, it says Consumer Discretionary Consumer Services. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, come up to this tab that says Stock, left click, and now we're going to left click on Industry. This is now asking us to choose an industry. Well, what industry do we choose? We're going to choose Consumer Discretionary Consumer Services. So I'm going to click on the down arrow, and now I will scroll down until I find Consumer Discretionary Consumer Services. And I'm going to left click on that. Again, I'll give us some more real estate. And what we're looking for is not an identical chart, but we want to see two charts that are very similar in direction and magnitude. And as you can see, our industry chart looks very similar to our stock chart. A peace of mind that knowing that the stock I'm interested that seems to have a very good upward moving pattern is supported by an industry group pattern that is very similar. Let's do this with another stock. In this case, Suncor Group. I right click, go down to the tab that says View Stock Graph, left click. That opens a chart. I now want to compare the stock chart, which is in the Financial Banks Industry Group, against the industry group chart. I come up here to our little playing card icon. I left click on that. I'm going to create my split screen by clicking on upper left, upper right. That gives me a split screen with my chart on the right. And now I need to come over here, find the industry group, Financials Banks. I click on this down arrow beside stock, go to industry group, click on this down arrow, and I will scroll down till I find Financials Bank. Click on that. Again, I'm looking for comparisons. If my industry chart happens to be very, very different, such as a sideways moving industry group, I'm going to discontinue my interest in this particular stock. However, I'd like you to note something because we don't see this happen that often in an industry group. And that's this what's called a breakaway gap. You'll notice how prices closed on this date and opened the next date significantly higher. This is a very bullish situation and would give me great peace of mind of knowing this is probably a stock that wants to make my final cut list. Now, before finalizing any of these for purchase, I'm going to do one more thing. And that one more thing is I want to get a sense of what the fundamentals of this company are like. So we're going to come up here. We'll start again with Flight Centers Limited. Again, I'm going to right click, except this time I'm going to go to View Stock News. And I'm going to left click on View Stock News. And that's going to bring me to Financial Times Markets Data. I'm going to come down here to click on Financials. And what I'm looking for, ladies and gentlemen, is to see if the financials of this company, again with the technicals, warrant me to consider this for purchase. So I click on Financials, and we'll scroll down and we'll look at some relevant information. First, I look at the revenue, and I can see from 2008 through 2012, very nice uptick in revenue, very solid gross margins, as well as net profit margin. The net income, although choppy in 08 and 09, seems to be on a steady rise. An excellent return on equity. The growth rate in dividends per share is solid and rising steadily, as is earnings per share. This is very, very respectable, $39.24 versus a year ago. Look at cash flow, and I can see cash flow has been a bit erratic, but cash has been accumulating. Total assets have been accumulating. And what I'm also impressed with is while total assets were accumulating, debt was coming down. So here's a company that is making more money, increasing their total assets while reducing their debt. Once we've finished our financial assessment, let's go back to our watch list. And now we're going to run a quick test. So from our watch list, it's a little bit difficult to see because of the increased resolution we need to use for this presentation. But in the upper right-hand corner, I'm going to left click. I click on this down arrow to get a little bit more information, but for simplicity, let's just quick test all. As you can see, our quick test went from the 19th of December to the 16th of May. Our returns were as follows. We had 5 winners, no losers. Our price percent change ranged from 53.70 to a low of 12.5. Our annual rate of returns, you can see, were tremendous, from 132% down to just over 30%. And our average was 30.55%, and our total ARR, 75.35. What's particularly obvious to me is that not only did we have an outstanding percent return on these stocks, but the VectorVest Australia over the same period of time was up a very modest 3.76% and 9.28% annually. So the stocks that we have selected have outpaced the VectorVest composite by nearly 10 to 1. I would classify that as a significant return on investment. So in summary, by using a simple, disciplined, and systematic approach to stock selection, and by making sure the market direction and industry group direction are also paramount in the selection of your stocks, you raise the odds of success substantially, and you get control over what you select, when you select it, and how you select it, and in turn, you hopefully have simplified your investment life. I hope you found this presentation helpful this evening. I thank you for attending, and have a good day.